What is up, lovely people? Welcome back to Blueprint Japan. I would like to welcome you to this new series where I sit down with people in my network who really amaze me, inspire me, and not only because of what they do, but also how they do it, and also because of their personalities. And so today's guest is Anthony Griffin. He's a coach, a marketing expert, an entrepreneur, or solo entrepreneur, I have to say, who has carved out his own path in Japan for many, many years, going on 17. And we talk about what it really takes to build a business abroad, navigating Japan's unique business culture, and the power of relationships. And so whether you are freelancing, building your own business, or you are just curious about solo entrepreneurship in Japan, there's something in this conversation for you, I promise. And yeah. This episode is sponsored by Saga Consulting, a Tokyo-based brand that helps Japanese companies and professionals communicate more effectively with global audiences. Founded by today's guest, Anthony Griffin, M.B.A., Saga specializes in cross-cultural communication training and digital marketing services, all designed to support long-term international growth. I've had the chance to both work for and collaborate with Saga Consulting, and I can honestly say their attention to detail, consistency, and thoughtful approach make them a true asset to any business aiming to go global. To learn more and also to read one of my blog articles, visit consultsaga.com. That is consultsaga.com. So on a side note, I started reading this book, The Brain at Rest, by a doctor called Dr. Joseph Gebelli. I hope I don't butcher his name. It's pretty good. I have a abstract for you that I recited, basically. So let me read that.
Okay.
And then let me get your thoughts on rest and resting as a solo entrepreneur in Japan. So the book talks about the brain's default network, and also about the executive network. So when neuroscientists talk about rest, they don't mean the brain switches off. In fact, some of the busiest activities happen when we stop trying to focus. The part of the brain we usually rely on during work is called the executive control network. It's centered around the prefrontal cortex, the region right behind your forehead. That's the part of the brain responsible for planning, logical thinking, self-control, task management, and basically anything that requires conscious effort.
Okay.
When we are emailing, editing, learning Japanese, solving a problem, or making decisions, the prefrontal cortex is firing intensely. It has to suppress distractions, regulate emotions from the amygdala, and keep everything organized. The executive network is incredibly powerful, but also incredibly energy hungry. It fatigues pretty quickly. But something fascinating happens when we stop. When we are walking without thinking, staring out of a train window, taking a shower, or resting in silence, another system switches on, the default mode network. And this network includes the medial prefrontal cortex, the posterior cingulate cortex, and the hippocampus deep in the temporal lobe, the structure that stores basically and retrieves memory. And so in this default network state, the brain begins doing its behind-the-scenes work, which is connecting memories, processing emotions, updating your sense of self, your goals, your story, creating associations that lead to insights. So basically learning, solving problems indirectly by letting ideas incubate, imagining future scenarios, daydreaming, which also helps with decision making. And so this is the mode responsible for the classic shower thoughts.
Okay.
Right? So those moments when the solution arrives only after you stop looking for it.
Yeah.
Right? And so I thought that was very interesting. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think of rest, and how do you get your rest, especially when working, by yourself in Japan, when everything is just so overstimulating, there's constant noise everywhere. Yeah, what's your thoughts on that?
Wow. I mean, well, obviously, I'm not going to go against the science, the science of it all, and I think it's well researched that rest is necessary. A lot of recovery, mental connections form when you're engaged not only in sleep but just you know relaxation, or as you said, in the shower. So, number one, the data's out there, and number two, I'm not an authority on the matter to argue against it. And I think there's a lot of truth to it. I've probably said before, I always have my best ideas in the shower. In fact, it's gotten so bad now. I got like a waterproof field notes notebook, and I put that right outside the shower. Yeah, because it's just like every day ideas drop, and I don't want to let them go. And at first I would I think at the 99-cent store, or the Hyakuen store, excuse me. Um, you can buy like a waterproof kind of note thing that you can stick in your shower. I'm like, I don't want to go that far, but at least let me keep a notebook close by, in the shower area. So yeah, no doubt about that at all. Definitely rest is important. How to get enough rest as, kind of a solopreneur, sole proprietor, whatever you want to call it. I mean, that's tough because we're always on. I was just speaking with someone today about this. If we're directly responsible for our income, our output, is very hard to take a rest, because we feel, okay, if I'm not producing something, if I'm not being productive, I'm harming my earning potential or future growth potential. So it's tough. Also, if you don't have systems in place where, that could be, automating social media posts, knowing how to do that. So, if you don't have the right systems in place, automation or whatever you need to serve your client, then you're not going to be able to take a proper vacation. You're not going to be able to rest. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I think to figure out how to get enough rest and how to be able to step away from your work, and part of me, I might go on for a bit because I think about it a lot. I think it's a process. First you have to know, and I credit Paul Jarvis for this. He had a successful podcast for freelancers, and he started Fathom Analytics, and he would always talk about this concept of knowing what's enough for you as far as income, revenue. So the first thing before you can figure out how much you can rest is you need to know what is enough. How much do you need to earn to be satisfied and to have some peace of mind? And he was really good about driving this point home. And in fact, he lived this value, because after his successful podcast, he wrote a book, he started this analytics company. He basically kind of disappeared from the public space because he reached enough. So that's the first thing you have to decide. And the second thing is you have to decide or build up enough clients to achieve that. And then I think once you have achieved that, then you can start building in rest, and you can say, okay, my business is going fine. I'm making enough. I'm relatively satisfied. I can start putting some guardrails in. I'm not going to take calls or emails after 7 p.m., for example, unless it's really exceptional. I'm not going to take projects on the weekend, for example. You will be able to basically shut down your doors for holiday periods. And basically, you'll have to start creating boundaries. But if you haven't decided what is enough, you'll never know when or how you can start drawing those boundaries. I haven't been perfect at that, but over the years, I do value rest. I value escapes like you had in Hong Kong. That really not only does it help you recover, but you just get infused with new ideas while you're doing something different. Any creative knows this. And if you research a lot of famous creators and artists, they always get these bouts of inspiration when they're out walking in nature or stepping away from their work. So, long story short, in summary, you have to know what enough is, and then you have to consciously set boundaries, as tempting as it is to be on 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
Does that kind of help a little bit, maybe, or were you looking for maybe something more specific?
Not in particular. I mean, I have been struggling a lot with just finding rest, because I've always been, at my laptop and phone and like 3 different emails, and it's my friends started telling me this, and that's when I realized. So the boys from Switzerland, they visit me almost regularly by now, which is pretty cool.
It's good.
Getting a bit of like the boys here in Japan. And oftentimes they catch me with this like empty stare.
Okay.
And that's usually when I think of work or how to get more work, right? So in the beginning you have this spark, right? You have this like, it's like motivation and spark in your eyes, and you're like, yes, I'm hungry. And I think over time, especially when you're building alone, you lose that spark, because you're not that, it's less interest, still is, but less.
Yeah.
But it's more survival.
Yeah. The grind.
Yes.
The grind. Yeah.
So you start to like keep forgetting small things, and like keep forgetting to enjoy while going for the grind. And I think it makes sense when you link it to when is enough.
Yeah.
Because once you know how much is enough, you can work towards that goal, and then you still have that spark because you know what's going to be enough.
Right.
So you're hungry until you reach that point of, okay, that's enough now. And then you can take a step back and, relax. So it does make sense. Do you have like a favorite method of resting or, taking a break?
Yeah. A couple of things. Before that, I do want to respond to something you said that I think is very important, which is enjoying the journey. And not only do you have to know what's enough as far as your financial needs, and this varies for everyone depending on their life situation, so that's an individual decision. But you also have to decide what kind of business you're building, because we talked about it before. There are various types of entrepreneurs and people. Some people, they are in love with this concept of owning a grand, big business and that title of, I created this great company. And that's great. But if you're going down that path, I hate to say it, but you'll hear this from time to time. At least in the beginning or the formative years, there's no such thing as work-life balance. There's no such thing as turning it off, because that's what it takes to build, these grand, lucrative companies. There's no way around it. And you have to accept that. You might have to, go hard for years at a time, and then maybe your time will come to slow down, or maybe you'll be like someone like Elon Musk, where you just never will slow down. So you have to know that. Whereas if you're on a different end of the spectrum, where you are just trying, like you and I think we like to consider ourselves creatives. We like to create, we like to be in our craft. We take pride in the content we create. Then, we're pursuing more of like a lifestyle, a way of living, a way of finding our way in the world. And if we're doing that, then our goal shifts. We said, okay, this is the way we want to go through life. We want to be able to create wonderful things for our clients. If that's the goal, then yeah, you need to enjoy that journey and just doing what you do throughout the day and getting reasonably rewarded for that. That should energize you, and hopefully it doesn't drain you. If it is draining, then you have to adjust your business. So in addition to knowing what is enough, you also have to know what you're trying to build. And I think you and I And a lot of people I know, we're just trying to build a nice little lifestyle business that allows us to directly do what we love doing, serving clients, helping clients through creating, wonderful solutions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I wanted to add that. Sorry, let me go back to your question of specific ways to wind down. I first should say, and I should have said this from the beginning, I'm a total failure when it comes to getting enough sleep. So I'm still working through all this myself. This is going to sound kind of weird, but I literally hate sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the concept of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it feels good to rest, and biologically it's important, but I have so many interests and hobbies and things I could be doing, things I want to be doing, that I hate the concept of, whatever percentage of my life disappearing into the unconscious ether.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stand it. There's just, the world is too big. There's too many things to see, do, explore, create. And that impacts my attitude towards sleep. I know I need it from a medical perspective, mm-hmm. but in my adult life, I don't think I've ever habitually achieved more than an average of about 6 hours of sleep mm-hmm. a night. Fortunately, even though, most medical professionals recommend 7 or 8, 6 seems to be about enough. I'm aiming for 7. Mm-hmm. I think 8 would be too much. If on the rare occasion I do oversleep, if I sleep till 8, I wake up and I feel groggy for a while. So I'm aiming, that's what I'm working for. I'm working towards 7. How am I trying to do that? I track habits. So any way I'm trying to better myself, I have a habit tracker on my phone. I also I track certain habits through a journal, writing it down. And, I set up this habit tracker, which basically says you get to check the box or what do you call it? Tap the check mark on the, mm-hmm. on the app. If I can get in bed by, let me think, 11:15. Mm-hmm. And I wake up at 5:45. Mm-hmm. So the 5:45 wake up used to be also a habit that I tracked, but that has become internalized now. Mm-hmm. So I don't need to track it anymore. That just happens, or it's going to have, my life is built around that now. Mm-hmm. So I don't need to track that one, but going to bed, that does not happen naturally. If I don't have some device or some gamification going to trick myself into going to bed at that time, I'll always find something to stay up and explore. Read a book, play a game, research something, watch TV, or fortunately I can't go. Well, I shouldn't go cycling or hiking at night, but yeah, there's just so many things to do. So that's how I handle the sleep rest. I mean, there are other kinds of rests you might want to explore, but I should stop running my mouth. How does that sound to you? Or do you have any advice for getting longer, better sleep?
Well, thanks for mentioning all of this, but I don't. Okay. I think this might sound very weird, but people who love life just don't sleep that much. That's what it is. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. My mom used to say that as a kid, I slept like 5-6 hours.
Oh, wow.
And I still do.
I'm not alone.
No, you're not. And so how you feel like a bit weird, like angry when you sleep more than 8 hours?
Yeah.
I feel the same.
Okay.
And plus I feel super tired.
Yeah. It's like there's a sweet spot,
yeah.
if it's under, for me, if it's under like 5.5 hours, I feel horrible. Mm-hmm. But if it's over 8 hours, I will also feel horrible, mm-hmm. if I can even sleep that long.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, looking back, I think my sleep schedule was always a bit rough, working at the casino night shift, doing like my studies. I love to read research papers and stay awake until in the morning.
There you go.
Because that's when you have your peace and nothing is going on and everyone is asleep and you don't have anything to do but to go for the things you love.
That's right.
And yeah, no, I get you when you say you hate sleep. It's
Okay.
100%, because other than recharging our bodies and our heart, it's like lost time.
Yeah. Like if you could, and sometimes we get this, we're fortunate enough to have dreams where you kind of live in a simulation, which is cool. Yeah. If you could go to sleep and it turned into like a video game, I think everybody would enjoy that. But, at best you get to dream, which a lot of them are fleeting. They go away. So it's just like you go to bed and then it's like it's like fast forwarding your life, So yeah, it's yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's disgusting. Yeah. And like, yes, professionals and experts say you should sleep 7 to 8 hours. Well, yes, if you want me to miss out a third of my life, and there is only like 60 to 80 years of that, maybe 40 to 60 years of that conscious.
If we're lucky.
We're lucky. No health issues and if those type of things don't come up, yeah, we get a good 40 to 50 to 60 years.
Yeah.
But think about it, like 20, 25 years of that is just for gone with school.
Yeah. That's right.
Like, and then the rest is like with adult life, and you have to work.
Yeah.
So 1/3 of your life you have to work. It's 8 hours a day, right? And then so 8 hours a day you have to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest is just like, it's not enough.
Right.
And I mean, thinking of rest, I know it's super important, especially now reading this.
Yeah.
But I think we can rest without sleeping. Like there's more to rest than just like sleeping.
Yeah, that's true. Sleep is one component. And I do, despite our concerns, I do want to stress that, we both acknowledge the importance of sleep. And,
yes,
as I mentioned, I am trying to, I think 7 would be, I think that's good enough. Mm-hmm. So I am working on that. So I don't want anyone to come away from this and say, oh, sleep is terrible. And,
mm-hmm.
I don't need to do that. No, I think we both acknowledge that we have to do it. But, yeah, there are other kinds of rest. Personally, again, I think it's just important to get out in nature,
mm-hmm.
So and to protect time for family, friends, physical activity. So I try to, again, not nearly well enough, but I make conscious efforts to block out time for that. I think it's important to, take vacations, even as a sole proprietor, where usually most of my vacations are somewhat of a working vacation. Mm-hmm. Just getting out. For example, I'm from the US, and because I can work remotely, I could stay there up to a month and still everything goes smoothly. Even if I'm working, just getting out to a new environment, new schedule, and being around friends and family, it really does recharge me. It gives me renewed enthusiasm and gratitude for the work that I do. And then when I come back to Japan, I'm like, hey, I'm refreshed. Let's go. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that kind of rest, I guess it's not even rest anymore, but just switching off or changing context, I think is important. If you don't do that, you will fall into that grind that you and I just talked about, where things start to feel monotonous or grindy. So yeah, you've got to switch it up, got to get out in nature. You got to do physical exercise, which also recharges the brain and sharpens the brain and generates new ideas. And you have to block out time for that, and sometimes prioritize that, or probably all the time prioritize that. But we're all human.
That's right. And so for listeners, I prepared a short abstract, which I'm not going to read out loud right now because of time, but it's basically about the parasympathetic nervous system, which is often called the body's rest and digest mode. And so, but in short, rest is very productive because the brain is working behind the scenes. It's reorganizing, calming, and creating, and all while you appear to be doing nothing. And so I dig more into, like rest in Japan. And then I found this like philosophy. They call it Shinrin-yoku. You probably might have heard about that.
Is that the forest walking?
Yes.
Okay.
You got it.
All right.
It's forest bathing.
Excuse me.
So again, for the listeners, so Shinrin-yoku is the kanji for mori and hayashi, and then abiru, so literally bathing in forest.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And so I'm going to read that out, and then I want to get your opinion on that. And plus, since we are in my favorite season of the year.
I too.
Yep. I want to get your favorite spots in Japan to take like a weekend off, and maybe we can, just have people explore more of Japan, because Japan is more than Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka, cities that I dislike. Yeah. So Shinrin-yoku, or forest bathing, is a Japanese practice of immersing oneself fully in nature to restore mental, emotional, and physical balance. Unlike hiking for exercise or sightseeing for goals, Shinrin-yoku emphasizes slowing down, observing, and engaging all the senses, noticing the texture of leaves, the patterns of sunlight, the sounds of birds, the scent of the forest. Now, this is very poetic, kind of like in a movie, but in the end, it's really that. It's being in nature. Yeah. And neuroscientifically, this practice activates the parasympathetic nervous system, lowering heart rate, reducing cortisol, and calming the amygdala, which regulates stress and emotional reactivity. At the same time, the brain's default mode network, which we talked about before, becomes active, allowing ideas to flow, memories to integrate, and insights to emerge naturally. And it's basically presence over productivity. That's what it is.
Nice.
And that's a huge part of resting in Japanese philosophy. I don't think the modern salaryman in Japan does that, or maybe is even aware of that, or maybe is kind of like in chains because of societal norms. But yeah, how does being in nature change your mental state when you compare it to Tokyo?
I mean, that's the thing about it. It's intangible. It's almost indescribable. In the simplest of terms, I go out for a hike, a walk, a bike ride. I come back feeling better. Let me see if I can come up with something better. I mean, it's that simple. I guess to give a more specific example, I try whenever possible to be out on the bike every Sunday morning, and preferably in nature. And another thing I do is, during that time, I don't have any, usually when I go to the gym, or if I'm walking through an urban environment that's not very stimulating, I'll have headphones in with either music or a podcast or an audiobook. But when I'm cycling, I never have anything else coming through my brain. Now, I started that before it's the law. Attention, everyone. I think from April next year, it's actually going to be illegal to have, any kind of headphones, even the bone resonating kind, while you're cycling in Japan or Tokyo. But even before that, I didn't think it was a safe thing to do, especially when I lived in Tokyo and, a car could hit you at any time, so I never cycled with any kind of audio in my ear. And so that means that for, anywhere from, 2 to 8 hours, depending on where I'm going, you're really, it's just you and your thoughts, and, random ideas come and go. Sometimes you're just looking at nature, appreciating nature. Sometimes you're seeing a cool car chase with a WRX and the police chasing them.
Where did it happen?
No, that was almost in Saitama, near the Arakawa River. If anyone wants to try to see another one of those, it was really cool. No one was harmed, and oh wait, it was the police had a police WRX, excuse me, and they were chasing a guy on a scooter.
No way.
And he got away, because we saw it, my buddy and I saw it all. So yeah, it was one of the police and they did a little drift chase in the scooter. And it was amazing. Anyway, I digress. So sometimes you see that, sometimes you'll see people riding on horses and just all kinds of random, the fire crew testing out their fire hose. Just, you just get to be, you start focusing on reality.
Mm-hmm.
And, so you have your thoughts going through your head. You've got reality, you've got appreciation of nature. And, after doing all that, it grounds you. You feel better. And the same applies for like a hike too. That's another situation. I don't go hiking in the forest with any kind of audio headphones, especially you don't want to do that these days with all the bears running around out there. But and so it just grounds you. And there's a lot of science out there to back that up. But beyond that, it's really hard to put my finger on exactly how it makes me feel better. It's just, if you're curious, go out and do it. There's no harm in it. I think unless you have like heavy allergies or something, there are very few people in the world who are going to tell you, oh, don't go out for a walk or don't go out and appreciate nature. So, sorry, maybe kind of a weak answer, but
it's an amazing answer. Thank you.
I hope it makes sense.
Have you, and I promise you, I'm not high right now. Have you?
I believe you.
Have you ever touched or hugged a tree in a forest?
That's a good question. I can't say I've hugged one. Maybe when I was a kid in the playground playing some kind of tag game or something like that. Definitely touch them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to if you're hiking like a difficult course or something.
Yeah.
You need to brace yourself. So yeah.
That's not intentional. Intentional, like touching or like hugging. Do it.
Oh,
crazy. So one very cold winter, my friend and I back home in Zurich, we just, we were doing these like regular hikes and walks in forests because we have a lot of them. And it was so cold that day. We stepped in the forest and he was like, yo, bro, there was this like documentary about trees and I was bored. So I watched it. Come hug this tree.
What?
Hey, I start like touching first and then hugging the tree, which sounds super weird, I know.
Okay.
But in that cold air and weather, temperature, that tree was so warm. Like it was almost hot.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
And so the moment I don't know, because I'm a huge fan of like frequencies and, like energies and stuff.
Sure.
But not too esoteric because, there's always a spectrum.
To each their own.
Yep.
No, to each
so, and you said grounded, right? It did ground me like super fast and it gave me like the sense of, well, everything is okay. Like it's cold outside, but like,
yes.
I'm safe.
Yes.
Which I thought was weird back then. But yeah, anyways, hug trees.
Okay, I will touch it for sure. If I'm alone, I might try that next time. That being said, you did remind me of another, going back to the topic of being grounded. And this, I don't know if I can universally recommend, but I think another way, and maybe this is a better answer to your original question, another way of getting out into nature, especially long journeys, is if you go on a long hike or a long bicycle ride and you started with a lot of baggage, from the week. Oh, I got to do this task and I got to finish this work and, what's my bank account looking like tomorrow and all that. But if you go out on a long ride that is challenging or a long hike that is challenging and you stay out there long enough, then you start to focus simply on the ride or the hike. And then you start to think, all these other things don't matter, because right now you're in the middle of nowhere and no one can reach you. And you just got to figure out how to get back or make sure you can get back, or just appreciate the moment. Hopefully your cell phone is like on silent, turned off, or maybe out of reception. But that really grounds you when you realize you're just in beautiful nature. No one can mess with you. Those things are out there somewhere, but they're not the priority. They're not front and center anymore. You just get to be, grounded, as you say. So, I imagine, getting out and hugging trees can do that as well, but it makes sense. It makes sense. You're focusing your attention on nature.
Speaking of nature and Tokyo, one way to combine both of these gems is obviously having a base at the right location. If you're looking to buy property in Tokyo but you don't know where to start, I've got you covered. I followed the process of realestate.jp many times, and Emil and his team make the entire process simple, transparent, and super foreigner friendly. From finding the right financing method with zero down payment to navigating paperwork and negotiations, they will guide you step by step in both clear English and Japanese. There are no hidden fees whatsoever, no confusion, and there is only genuine support from people who actually care about you. And obviously, I don't promote brands and businesses that I don't know personally, and so I can say with confidence that realestate.jp, Emil and his team, make buying a home or getting the right financing smooth, safe, and super stress-free. Visit realestate.jp for more. That is realestate.jp. What's your go-to spot if you want to escape,
How much time do you have for storytelling?
As much as we need. Please.
All right. I was really excited about this topic, because fall also is my favorite season. And I started a fall routine, which I absolutely love. And I'm almost afraid to share it because I don't want too many people to go and copy it and make it crowded. But the first time I hiked Mount Fuji, which must be over 10 years. I can't remember the exact years, but it must be over 10 years ago by now. That time it was from the fifth stage, not from the ocean like the second time. So I think I arrived, I had an extra day off or something, and I was meeting my friends to hike the mountain, but I had extra time. And I was still relatively new to Japan, and I'm like, okay, what can I do with my extra time? And I didn't know anything about Mount Fuji, the national park it's in that area. But I saw, okay, there's some lakes over there in Kawaguchiko. There's I would argue the main lake has accommodations. And I'm like, let me go out to this area at the base of Mount Fuji early, before the big hike, and just explore, So I went out there a day or two early, just stayed at like a cheap hotel, and I went crazy. Like it was just beautiful. The views of Mount Fuji were stunning. The lake is very easy to navigate, and I was just blown away. So a day or two before Mount Fuji, I rented like a Mamatari bike and cycled around the lake. I walked all over the place. I went hiking. There's a ropeway you can go to view Mount Fuji, but then I saw, there's a hiking trail beside that. Let me do this, And so I was doing all of these things, finding like, this cool One Piece themed izakaya there. And I just had a blast. So I wore myself out before even going up Mount Fuji, which was crazy, but that shows how much I love that area. So ever since then, whenever possible, in the fall, I go to what we call Fuji Goko, the 5 lakes of Fuji. Started with Kawaguchiko, and then a few years later, as I've written about, I got the crazy idea of cycling there from Tokyo, but to Yamanakako, the closest lake to Mount Fuji, that's also big and prominent, and I barely survived that. But again, Yamanakako, same thing. Managed to cycle there from Tokyo. Took like 11 hours, came in at night, coming out of the mountains. And the next day I'm on my bike again, riding around the lake. walking around to check out different things. And then, the next day I went back, and I just had a fantastic time. And so, yeah, every fall, I unless something, prevents it, family comes or something like that, I am at Fuji Five Lakes, walking, hiking, renting a rowboat for no reason, and getting out on Lake Saiko, the small lake that connects to Kawagujiko. I think I've cycled almost. You can cycle around four of the lakes because they're close together. I think it's about 75 kilometers.
Okay.
So I've done that once or twice. Yeah, but bar none. This year, my wife and I, we went camping out at near Yamanakako, right at the campsite. Mount Fuji is just right in your face. You wake up and boom, Mount Fuji, it takes up your whole field of vision there. So that whole area is my fall travel passion. How about yourself?
Well, I've been to near Fuji last month with the boys.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that trip looked amazing. I remember the pictures. I was jealous. I was jealous.
It was pretty good. And then I liked going to Nikko.
Yes.
Nikko is beautiful. And it's pretty near, close to Tokyo. It's like 1.5, 2 hours with, by highway.
Yeah.
And I figured there's even, everyone listening, there's a direct connection from Asakusa.
That's right.
I didn't know. And they have a day pass. They have like a 4-day pass, which lets you explore. I think it's called Nikko Day Pass or something.
Nice.
Which you can use the Tobu Skytree line that goes from Asakusa Station all the way up to Nikko, Okunikko or something.
Nice.
And then you can take all the local buses, like bus lines, and you can, I think, I might be wrong on this, but you also can take the rope way. Yeah.
Now, I didn't know about that.
Yep. 4-day pass, and I think it's only 8,000 yen.
Gee.
Steal deal.
That's awesome.
And Asakusa to Nikko by the Tobu line takes like 2 hours. Yeah. Same. It's so convenient. Didn't know.
Nice.
So there, obviously, towards winter, I love Akita and Aomori. So I yet have to try Akita and Aomori during fall.
Yeah.
Because I think it has a great potential to be beautiful there.
Yeah, I was actually out there around in October last year. Okay. It hadn't snowed yet. It's quite beautiful, but it was cold. Yeah, but that's another good place to go.
Did you have foliage?
I think it was too early. But I don't recall. I still recall seeing a lot of green actually when I was out there. Yeah. So speaking of which, at least for like the Fuji Five Lakes, that's why it's a fall tradition, is I time it with the foliage. And there's festivals going on, Yamanakako, all of the crimson trees alongside the lake, they'll light those up. Kawaguchiko, the whole month of November, I think they just basically have a fall colors Koyo festival, and they just do all kinds of things. I mean, one time there was like a jazz concert out on the lake or jazz performance, and Mount Fuji was in the background. So at least around this area, tends to happen November. So but I know the leaves change at different periods throughout the country. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, man. Life is so good. And if you know how to spend your time and your money in Japan, you can just like maximize your life potential, happiness, whatever, by a lot.
Well said.
It's really, I love, like Anthony, I really love Japan.
Good to hear.
I know you do too.
I do.
It's a lot of people, and I'm saying this on air because I want people to realize, like, Japan is not Tokyo and all these touristy cities, there's so much more to it. And yeah. Speaking of money,
Right.
because I know those trips do take money, they cost money. How do you balance your savings? How do you split that because I imagine you don't have regular income every single month. Maybe you have, a couple of retainers, but it's still gonna vary from month to month.
Yeah.
How do you save money?
Good question, and several angles to approach. Overall, I use what I call the save for winter strategy. The core of that means when, as much as possible, I try to keep my lifestyle consistent. So expenditures are predictable for the most part. And then that means when you have great months, you don't run out and spend a lot of money. You keep living as you are, and you bank all that surplus, which means your lower points are covered as well. So that's what I try to do. Looking at the bigger picture, especially, it was much easier when my life was simpler, like when I first came to Japan, but it's always been about living below my means and not changing my lifestyle, even if my income increased. Even when I had jobs, when I got promoted, I was promoted a few times at the first company I worked for. And then when I changed jobs and became a marketing manager, that was a significant salary leap. But I resisted as much as possible changing my lifestyle. So what does that mean? And I can't recommend this for everybody, but for the first I want to say at least 4 years in Japan, regardless of what was happening in my career, I lived in a rokujo, which for listeners, that's a 6 tatami size apartment. Basically, I like to call it a shoebox. The minute some people push it and maybe get a yonjo, a 4 tatami, but it doesn't get much smaller than a rokujo. So 4 years I was living like that. And then at some point, I needed to upgrade for some reason. And then maybe I got a little bigger place, but it's still a one room kind of apartment. I for the longest time, I didn't even have like a separate room, even though, my job was upgraded. And then another thing is, once I started working for the American Chamber of Commerce, that was in a much more expensive town. I was surrounded with people who had more expensive tastes, but I still stayed grounded. I didn't move to that area. Fortunately, the commute wasn't too bad, so I didn't feel that I had to. I didn't change like my dining habits. Fortunately, I'm not into fine dining or fine spirits or anything like that. So to me, that's my way. Does that mean not having any fun? No. Similar to knowing what is enough, you also have to really know what you are passionate about. And if you do spend money, make sure it's on something that rejuvenates you or rewards you. So for me, especially since for most of my time in Japan, I didn't have a car. In America, I was a car guy, and that was probably my biggest passion and expense. Everything else I do is cheap, but the car was my thing, and that was a big financial burden. But once that was lifted from me when I came to Japan, I think travel became my biggest expense. But the rewards coming from that were so great, especially spending money to go home and see family and friends, that I would just kind of build my budget around that and keep everything else at a minimum. So in summary, live way below your means, and just because the sun shines and and life is good, don't quickly upgrade or anything like that, and just choose what is passionate for you. If you're passionate about I don't know, video games or something like that, sure, spend a little money there, but don't spend your money there and then also try to buy the fanciest clothes and the fanciest meals and the whatever people spend their money on these days. You got to choose, focus your money on what you're passionate about, and don't get caught up in the rest. Just hopefully that helps. How about you? What do you do to kind of keep going and keep saving?
Yeah, let me get back to that. I think because you mentioned fine dining, and I hope anyone listening, like if you spend money on fine dining, which once in a while, maybe once a year for birthday or something special,
Sure,
can be good. Or if you get invited, always go. But don't spend your money on that. One, it's way too expensive. Two, you can experiment at home. So you can look at fine dining restaurants and recipes, and then go to the grocery and then come home and try to experiment and do the same and copy. Because one, it's more fun. Two, you can adjust taste to your liking. And three, it's way cheaper.
Yes. Great advice. Yeah.
It's just fun. Like cooking is fun.
If you're into it, if you're into it. And you know what? Even if fine dining is your thing and you want to do it every week, that's great. But if you don't have a lot of money, you're going to have to save in other ways. Maybe you're not going to travel so much. You're going to stay in your city for most of the year and enjoy fine dining instead of lavish travel experiences. But I'm glad you mentioned that cooking at home is another great way to save money, whether you like it or not.
And also, yeah, you're right. If you're into fine dining, here's my tip: how you can maximize that time and money investment. So if you're into fine dining, you go to a restaurant, take photos, like very nice photos, write down how you feel at that moment, how the taste was. And then one, write a review, and two, have a blog where you can post that.
Nice.
Because once you have 3, 4, 5 restaurants on your blog, you can just approach fine dining restaurants and be like, hey, this is what I do. Can I come and do a review for, your fine dining? It works.
Wow.
It works. And maybe you're not going to get paid, but you can eat for free for good food.
That's fantastic advice. Nice. Well done. I like it.
But yeah, when it comes to money saving tools, maybe.
Right.
So one of my clients I work with told me to download MoneyTree.
Yeah, I used to use that. That's a good one. That's a great one.
I didn't know of its existence.
Oh, really?
It's so convenient.
Yeah.
Because it tracks everything once obviously you have to link your bank accounts. I'm fine doing that, but
yeah,
it shows you all the expenses, all the income. It splits everything automatically.
Yep.
Into categories, which is amazing. So yeah, I started doing that, and I started doing research on NISA and iDeCo.
Nice.
Which I think a better person to listen to would be, I want to say, Ben Tanaka.
Right, Retire Japan.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yep. So yeah, and I'm trying to get him on the podcast because he just applied for his naturalization, I think.
That's right.
Yep. That's right. So just his experience and,
Yeah, get him. He did a great Kokoro Media interview, which is still out there. So he was kind enough to share his wisdom in the written form. So I really hope that he will, you'll get him on this show as well, because when it comes to finance as an expat in Japan, I don't know of a better source, so yeah, 100%.
So NISA, iDeCo, which NISA, by the way, is UK's ISA. Oh. Apparently, it's just, I'm not sure if it's Nippon ISA.
Okay. And bear with me, I'm from the States. Yeah. We have different systems, but so it's something that they borrowed from the UK as far as how it works.
So they copied it, but they admit, like they openly say that it's from the UK.
Okay.
Which cool. I didn't know. I just learned a couple of days back. Which I think it's because Japan is really good at looking at countries around them, and and just making it maybe even better. Or
That's for sure.
Yeah, which can go both ways. They looked at a lot of places with the business manager visa, for example, and they were like, hey, you know what? We are way too affordable. Like this visa is way too cheap. So let's just up it and match it with surrounding neighbors and countries.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think maybe in the 80s and 90s, Japan, I think, I wasn't living back then, but I wasn't alive back then, but they were like pioneers when it came to like IT, maybe.
Oh yeah.
And technology. But right now, I think they excel at looking at what works around them and just testing it and then doing it consistently and maybe even better.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would say that, it's been like that for as long as I can remember as well. Yeah. But before I forget, I do want to compliment you on recommending apps like Money Tree, and I think Money Forward is maybe another one. Because that is something I used in my Japan formative years. Just because when you're tracking every yen that comes in and out, number one, when you buy something, there's a tinge of annoyance. It's like, I got to put this in the app, if it's not something you can automate. So it makes you conscious of everything you spend. And quite frankly, you can't manage your finances if you don't know where everything's going, So I think that's a really great idea. And I'm glad you mentioned it. And then just like with habits, I think once, things settle and things become consistent, you might want to wean yourself off of it, perhaps. If your habits become internalized, then you can leave it behind. So I don't use that so much. And plus I being a sole proprietor, I'm doing most of my accounting for my business. So I have to, I'm always seeing where my income is coming and going anyway. But yeah, that I'm glad you mentioned that, because I did use those kinds of apps heavily in those formative years.
Why did you stop?
Things just, it goes back to my advice. My output was just consistent. Nothing changed in my spending patterns. So it was getting redundant. So that's why. Yeah,
that makes sense. And look, for anyone listening, if you want to get more tips on consistency, like Anthony is your man. Like, 'cause I think you're the most consistent person that I know.
Really?
Yes, 100%. Like long-term consistency and discipline. I think you're like on my list. If I had to put down names on a list, you would be number one.
Wow, thank you.
That's insane.
So I guess some people would translate that as being boring, but that's my consistency and routine is my comfort food. So thank you. I'll try to keep it up.
Yeah. Do you have any closing thoughts?
We did a marathon today. I think we covered everything. There's always more details and specifics maybe I would like to add. So I would just like to encourage anyone listening, ask us follow-up questions. I feel I might have spoken in some broad strokes today. So please, the final thing I would say is if you're listening to this and you have questions for us, please reach out to us. Let us know. We'd be happy to elaborate. How about yourself?
Nothing for now. If you guys feel like taking a break, go take that break. Take your time. Prioritize yourself and maybe friends and family and less work, because hustling in a positive way is good, but it can be very toxic very fast. So and without you realizing, it's because you think you're doing so much and you're busy all the time, but you're not really productive. That's the thing. So and yeah, I'm thankful for the boys for mentioning that. And also shout out to my friend Dave, who came to visit me and recommended this book. Because he had the book with him. And so he saw me at my flat, and he was like, because last time we saw each other was in February in Switzerland. And he was like, yo, bro, I think you're a bit tired. Here's a book. Read that. And so I just, flipped through some pages and had a look at the what is it? The contents of the book.
Table of contents?
Yes. So, and I was like, I think subconsciously, I was like, I need that book. So I ordered it the next day on Amazon, unfortunately, but
what are you gonna do?
They're pretty, they're convenient.
Yeah, if you've got to get something quickly,
Yeah. So go out there, enjoy, trust universe, and thank you so much for listening. And Anthony, we'll catch up next week.
Sounds awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
All right.
Audience, have a great weekend and talk to you soon.